Now, look at page 53. Page 53, we start into the real intermediate algebra stuff. By the way, this is intermediate algebra one step at a time. It sells for about $4 in the bookstore. Nobody makes anything on it except the bookstore. And so anyway, on page 53, I want you to see the patterns of the problems here. These problems are arranged in patterns. I want you to look at number 14. Number 14 at the top of the page, it says y squared minus 16. Everybody in here can do that one in a flash, right? What would it be? Y minus 4, y plus 4. Now, what if I gave you a problem that said star squared minus 16? Would everybody be able to do star squared minus 16? What would you do? Star minus 4, star plus 4, and everybody just zips right through that. Now, what if I changed the problem and gave you something like this? Junk squared minus 16. Can you factor junk squared minus 16?
Junk minus 4 junk.
Well, let's see now. We have to have junk minus 4. Now, by the way, we already got parentheses around this junk, don't we? So in order to keep it straight, it might help if we make brackets around the junk minus 4, right? Like that? Is that okay? And then we say parentheses for the inside. Then we got junk. Whoops, that doesn't look right. Junk. And then what? Plus 4. Now does that check? Does that check if you multiply? If you FOIL it out, first times first would be what? Junk squared. And then what's the outer times outer? And the inner times inner. Outer times outer would be what?
4 junk.
4 junk. And what happens to the inner times inner? Negative 4 junk. And you see, it subtracts out. So the junk subtracts out. And then the last times last would have to be negative 4 times positive 4, which is negative 16, okay? Now, I don't know if you realize this. What you're just learning to do, you're learning to go from a variable of x, an x squared, to a larger variable. Can you see what's coming up in number 17? Do number 17 with me, if you will. Having just done the jump problem, number 17 is the next one in the pattern, and it says 2, what does it say? I've got it wrong. X minus 2y, x plus 2y, the quantity squared, and then minus 16. So what do? 2 sets of brackets to kind of get things started, because I want to save parentheses for the inside. And now, what times what would I need in order to get it to come out to x plus 2y, the quantity squared?
X plus 2y.
X plus 2y, right? And then times x plus 2y, right? And then in order to get the last times last to come out to 16, I'll have to have what? 4 and 4. And what signs? Negative and positive. Negative 4, positive 4. Any questions on that? Okay. All right. Now, before I do a number, I want to do a problem with you. And the problem I would like to do with you, I've got to make up one. It's not in the book. This is an unscheduled problem. X squared minus 2x minus 8. Can everybody factor that? It's not in the book. Can everybody factor that? What would it be? XX. Negative 4 and positive 2, right? And everybody zipped right through that. Now, can anybody tell me which problem I'm going to call you for next? On page 53. The one that this leads into. How about number 24? I'll bet you wouldn't guess it. Number 24 is the one I want to lead into. But I'm not ready for 24 yet. I want to do another problem first. The problem I need to do is this. Junk squared minus 2 junk, and then minus 8. Can you see? That is a trinomial. All right? That's a trinomial. So what we have to do with a trinomial is we've got to have something. In other words, what times what is going to be junk squared?
Junk.
Junk, okay? So this will be like junk times junk. And then let's go from the first times first, you see that? To the last times last. The last times last has to give you 8. What can you do to get an 8 out of this thing? 4, 2, right? 4, 2. Make it a negative 4, just like I did up here. Negative 4 and a positive 2. Can you see that that's going to do it? And then what do you have for the outer times outer? Outer times outer would be 2 junk. Okay? And the inner times inner is negative 4 junk. And what would you have all together?
2 junk.
Negative 2 junk. You see that work? Now, having done that one, now let's take a look at number 24. And if you can do number 24, this is a critical point in this assignment. Number 24. Because the problem in number 24 says 3x plus 4y plus 4y, the quantity squared. Then it says minus 2 times the quantity 3x plus 4y. And then it says minus 8. Do you see that the numbers here are exactly the same as they were in the previous 2 problems that I did? In my regular trinomial, x squared minus 2x minus 8. In my junk trinomial, this is what I call a junk trinomial, quantity junk squared minus 2 junk minus 8. You see that? Do you see this is a trinomial? Can you count to 3? 1, 2, 3. That's a trinomial, isn't it? 1, 2, 3. Now, the way we factor that, we make 2 big old sets of parentheses, or maybe even brackets. I'm going to use brackets this time. And the way I factor a trinomial, I have to get the first times first. This times this has to come out to this squared, right? So what's going to be the first times first? That's
3x plus 4.
3x plus 4y times 3x plus 4y. You see what we've done? We've gone from a trinomial in x to a larger trinomial. We didn't change anything. We just made it look more complicated. And that's the way math is most of the time anyway. It's just made it look complicated. All right? And if you can understand it, then it's not that complicated anymore. Now, after you do the first times first, the f part, then what do we have to do next? Last times last. Remember? F-L-O-I. Last times last. I need to know last times last has to come out to negative 8. So what times what would be 8? 4, 2. That's what we used before, wasn't it? 4, 2. So this is going to be a 4, and this is going to be a 2. And we got to get the signs right. It has to be arranged so the signs will add up to negative 2. Now, how are you going to get it to add up to negative 2? Negative 4 and positive 2. Same as before. Negative 4, positive 2. Now, that's the answer. That's factored. But there's one more thing I'd like to do. I call it the cleanup step. In other words, you don't have to have all those brackets and parentheses and everything in it, do you? Is there something you can do that would clean it up? In other words, drop the parentheses on the inside. What would this be? 3x plus 4y and then minus 4. And just change these brackets to parentheses. So it would be like that. Doesn't that look nicer? More friendly looking? And then we'll have parentheses here, and what would you have next? 3x plus 4y, and then plus 2. Okay? Any question on that? Okay? Welcome to intermediate algebra. We have arrived. This is the kind of stuff that intermediate algebra is made out of. Okay?
It looks different, but I mean, it's like, you know, like you look at the second step, and you look at the third step, and you like change it to like 2 trinomials.
Yeah, that's right. It looks different, doesn't it? That's the thing. It really does look different. So you may need to see this again. You may not understand this. I may have lost you. When I went from this x squared minus 2x minus 8, I had everybody with me. And then I lose a few people when I go to the, well, most of the people hang with me through the junk. Okay? But then when I get to this quantity, instead of junk, think of this as junk squared. Minus 2 junk minus 8. And some people need to see that twice before they understand it. So if you have trouble getting from this down to this, if you don't see that this is the same problem as that, then you probably need to just hit the rewind button on this thing, go back and watch it again. And it'll be easier the second time you see it. Now, what if you don't have a rewind button to push? What if you don't have the tape to push? Then you need to get somebody to sit down with you and go over it again. Or call me, you know.
Could you do the check on that problem? I think that would help.
Okay.
Multiply that.
Yeah, all right. What you'll have to do when you do the check, when you do the check, we're going to multiply this thing out. Now, when you look at this to multiply it out, do you see a trinomial times a trinomial, or do you see a binomial times a binomial?
Binomial.
You're both right. If you see a trinomial, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, that's a trinomial times a trinomial, isn't it? But can you also see it as a binomial? In other words, take this pink part right here and think of that as a quantity. Then this is 1, and this is 2, and then this is 1, and that's 2. When you multiply it out to check, which way are you going to want to think of it? As a trinomial times trinomial or a binomial times a binomial? Given that, look at, this is what we're trying to come back to. See at the top here? You're trying to get it to come back in terms of this quantity. So let's think of it as a binomial. Now when I FOIL this thing out, what's the first times first?
3x plus 4y.
3x plus 4y, the quantity squared, because it's the quantity times itself, right? That's the F part. And then we have to do the outer times outer. Now the outer times outer, what's that going to be? 2 times the quantity, 3x plus 4y. Now let me stop right there. Don't multiply that out. Leave it like that. Leave it in a grouping. Leave it in a quantity. Don't bother to go 2 times, don't go 6x plus 8y. Don't do that. Leave it 2 quantity, 3x plus 4y. Do you know why I want you to leave it like that? Because what's the inner times inner? Negative 4, right? Negative 4 times the quantity of 3x plus 4y. You see that? So they're like terms, aren't they? Negative 4 of these guys and plus 2 of those guys. How much is that all together? Negative 2 of those guys. So that would be, write it down, negative 2 times the quantity of 3x plus 4y. Okay? And after you do the OI, what do we have to do next? The last times last. And the last time, here we go with the last times last. What is it? Negative 4 times a positive 2, which is what? Negative 8. Okay? Negative 8. That's exactly what we had to begin with, isn't it? So that's the check. And maybe that'll help you understand the concept of factoring. Okay? Now, do you think they're all going to stay like that? Well, let me do one more. Let's look at number 28 on the page 54. Number 28 on page 54. All right. Number 28, page 54, it says x minus 2y, the quantity squared, minus 100. What could I do first that might make this problem easier? I think maybe I should have started you off with an easier one, huh? The easier problem I could have started off with would be like this. X squared minus 100. Can everybody square that? Factor that? X squared minus 100 would be x minus 10, x plus 10, right? What if I said junk squared minus 100? What if I said junk squared minus 100? Then what would it be? Well, we'll have to use brackets because I've already got parentheses in the problem. So I'll change it to brackets. Now what's it going to be? Junk and junk. And then what? Minus 10 and plus 10. Okay? So now, with that in mind, are you ready to tackle this one over here now? So we'd have to have 2 sets of brackets, right? And now, what times what is going to give you the x minus 2y, the quantity squared. What times what?
X minus 2y.
X minus 2y and times x minus 2y, right?
Minus 10 plus 10.
Now we got to get the last times last to come out to 100. Minus 10 and plus 10, right? And then we're going to do so that gives you the minus 100. And now what do we have to do to check it? The outer times outer and the inner times inner. And what do you get when you do the outer times outer? 10 of these guys and what? Negative 10 of those guys. And they subtract that out, right? And so there's no middle term left, exactly like it's supposed to happen. Okay? Now, I'm going to kind of skip over to page 55, number 42. Page 55, number 42. We'll turn a page in the playbook here. Page 55, number 42, and it says x squared plus 2xy plus y squared. Then it says plus 3x plus 3y minus 10. And you probably look at that and say, where did you get that? Long problem. Now, this is grouping. Remember what we said about grouping? Sometimes you group the first two and the last two. This is much more than the first two and the last two, though, isn't it? Do you see anything that looks good together in this? Anything that looks like it makes something that fits? Like if you group the first three, do you see that that would be a trinomial? How could you do that? XX plus y. Now you notice I wrote it like this, x plus y, but you don't want to leave it like that. How do you want to write it?
X plus y squared.
X plus y squared. Now I'll warn you, if you leave it x plus y, it's correct, but you won't recognize what to do next. So you must recognize that it is x plus y, the quantity squared. Now, does anything else look like it would go well together? How about the middle two terms? Don't take the last three. This is not the first three and the last three. It's the first three. The middle two go well together, don't they? And what could you do from the middle two? Take out a 3. So that would be like plus 3. And what would we have if we take out the 3? X plus y. And then, what's left at the end? Negative 10. Now, do you see one of my famous junk trinomials there? You see that as a trinomial? Count to 3 with me. 1, 2, 3. See? So it's a trinomial. How do we factor trinomials? We start off with 2 sets of parentheses. Except that we've already got parentheses in the problem, so instead of starting off with 2 sets of parentheses, we'll start off with what? 2 sets of brackets. Good. So let's start off with 2 sets of brackets. And now, what do we have to do first? First times first. So the first times first, in order to give you x plus y squared, you're going to have x plus y, right? First times first. And after the first times first, we jump to the last times last. So now we need to have last times last coming out to negative 10, don't we? Now, what are you going to do to get a 10? What two numbers?
2 and 5.
2 and 5, all right? 2 and a 5, and we want the total to be plus 3. So what would you have to have a plus 3?
-2.
Negative 2, right? Negative 2 and positive 5. Okay? Negative 2 and positive 5. Does that work? How do we know? Do the outer times outer. By the way, negative 2 times 5 is negative 10. That's correct. And now the outer times outer. What's the outer times outer?
5 times.
5. Now, don't multiply it out. Leave it 5 times the quantity of x plus y. Don't put 5x plus 5y. If you do, you're going too far. You're making it harder than it is. Leave it 5 times the quantity, x plus y. Now, what about the inner times inner? How much is that? Negative 2. And again, don't multiply it out. Put negative 2 times the quantity of x plus y. And now, just look at this. This is the same as that, isn't it? So you got 5 of these things and negative 2 of those things. That would be a total of 3 of those things, just like it's supposed to be. Okay? Now, when you get right down to it, you don't need all those brackets and parentheses, do you? So let's take one step to just kind of clean up the mess. You agree that looks messy, doesn't it? So what can I do to clean up the mess? X plus y minus 2. Just write it. X plus y minus 2, parentheses. And what? X plus y plus 5. And that's it. Okay? End of the problem. Any question on that? Okay, now they get a little uglier on the next page. In fact, they begin to downright look like college algebra problems. I don't know, should I do another one of those? How about number 48? I want to show you one that might be a little on the hard side for intermediate algebra. But some of you are going to be finding yourselves next term in college algebra, so you don't mind, do you? X to the 4th plus 4x squared y squared plus 4y to the 4th minus 4x squared y squared. Now, problem here. The problem is that, that you might subtract these out. And if you did, it wouldn't factor, would it? But if you leave it like it is, group these 3 together, and call that a quantity, what would you have to have here? Let's do another step here. Let's do 2 sets of parentheses. X squared, and then what to get 4y squared? Plus 2y squared, plus 2y squared. And then that would be x squared plus 2y squared, the quantity squared, and then minus, look at this down here. This is a quantity squared, isn't it? Minus what quantity squared? Can you see that right there? 2xy. Right? Isn't it slick? So now you've got a quantity squared minus a quantity squared. Does everybody know how to factor a square minus a square? Brackets. What do we have to get the first times first? X squared plus 2y squared, and then what? X squared plus 2y squared, like that. And then the last times last would be negative 2xy and a what? Positive 2xy. See, the last times last is going to be 4x squared y squared, right? And lo and behold, you can clean it up a little bit. Now, how could you clean that up? We can rearrange this, can't we? Rewrite it like this. In other words, let's put 2 sets of parentheses and start with x squared, and then we'll put minus 2xy, and then plus 2y squared. In other words, what I'm going to do, I'm going to just put this xy term between the x squared and the y squared. So you got x squared, 2xy, and y squared, 2y squared. Okay? Do the same thing down here, and what would you have? X squared plus 2xy, and then plus 2y squared. Okay? All right, yes?
We always put the exponents on the end.
I usually want to have the x, if I've got x squared and y squared, it's appropriate to have xy in between. Just appropriate. It doesn't have to be that way. Okay?
Those type of problems where you take the first 3
Yes.
terms,
Right.
will it always work out that way?
No, it's just something works sometimes and it might not work another time. All of this that I'm showing you today is trial and error.